Welcome back to another episode of Rawstocks. I'm Rustic. What a day we had in the market today. We all ready for that little Mr. Magoo's wild ride. Thought we were dipping, start ripping, a lot of chop in there, but it was an exciting day trading Tesla again. Had a lot of good call outs. Again, if you aren't following me, I'm hanging out in the Traders Helping Traders Discord. Links in the description below. Let's go ahead and take a look at where price came from, where price is today, and where price may be heading tomorrow. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump into the daily chart as always. Got the chart up here. We got some of the unbalanced price ranges, some of the other price targets to the upside, as well as a few targets to the downside. Took a lot of those downside targets out last week with the moves down after the FOMC meeting, right? That was all kind of catapulted by the CPI and PPI week where we talked about it, right? We had our wick, we had liquidity built up, we ran on liquidity, smart money, reposition, went short, right? Boom. FOMC, boom, dropped it, right? Just sold off, took out that volume imbalance here in this gap, right? Traded down into this fair value gap that we had previously marked, which is now closed with the open of the candle body today. So this fair value gap off the table closed, right? Traded down to a level that we had marked off that we talked about, 38 and some change, or 238 and some change. Right, hit it with a wick just a little bit below. This isn't a precise level, but what we were looking at was the confluence of candle body open, candle body open, candle body close, candle body open, right? Lot of reason to hit that level, a lot of confluence, hit it with the wick, rejected that level, right? So what does that tell us? Well, it doesn't tell us a whole lot besides that level was a good support here and back here when we ran off of it. And now we're seeing it as support here with the wick today. But does that mean we're going higher? Not necessarily. Does it mean we're going lower? Not necessarily, right? So we're going to look at our targets. We're going to look at different clues and see what we think is going on here. Some things that we want to pay attention to is we have a large bearish or negative fair value gap here. We also have another negative or bearish fair value gap here, right? So as we push up, we're going to look to see how price interacts with these fair value gaps. Again, they're daily, so they are bigger and we can trade inside of them, often longer than you might see price trade inside or around a, say, 1 minute fair value gap, right? So another things we have on our chart, we have the 4-hour order block. And when we drop down to the 4-hour chart, which we don't always look at, I'll show you where that came from. Got another 4-hour order block here. Both of those are bearish order blocks, right? And we are inside that order block. We traded through it with the wick, but we're still inside of that order block. So it hasn't officially been closed. Wicks do the damage, but candle bodies tell the story. Okay, and so the fact that this is still open tells us that we could see continued price to the upside, right? We could. Doesn't mean we will, but it is a more positive sign, at least for today, that we are still within this order block. A lot of times you see price react to it and then come back to it and close it. In this case, it'd be closing it to the downside. So let's go ahead and see if that happens, but that's something we're watching, seeing if this this order block on the 4-hour time frame gets closed or eventually coming back to take it out. So again, we have 1 minute unbalanced price range, 1 minute unbalanced price range. We have consequent encroachment of a volume imbalance. We have a 1 hour unbalanced price range. We have a 50 fib retracement here of this move, which might need to be adjusted based on this candle that we laid here. And we have a 15-minute unbalanced price range and another 1 minute unbalanced price range. So are we heading to 270? Not likely, right? I don't have high hopes that that's where we're heading right now, but those are targets to the upside. When we do start getting moving, these are going to get taken out, right? And we have even further up is the gap open, gap close, and the consequent encroachment of that daily gap, also a volume imbalance there, right? So things that we're paying attention to, also downside targets, is we still have this level of support that's held so far, 238.73, give or take. The 4-hour order block, we have the daily fair value gap here and the consequent encroachment down at 223.64. We have 217, which is the beginning of that fair value gap, and I believe it also was the change of character from back here, okay, where we came down to balanced price range. So we have those levels to take out. Even further down, we have an unbalanced price range down at 191.81. We don't really care about those targets right now. We don't really care about them until we start getting moving towards that direction. So if we take out this order block, we take out this consequent encroachment, we take out this fair value gap, probably heading to 191.81, right? We do have some other fair value gaps that we would extend out and see if any of those offer support before we get down to that previous level of 191 and some change. Okay, so we talked about it in the video yesterday. What that possible move would look like today, right? And what we had discussed was that there was a liquidity pool right here. Okay, we'll mark it in blue. Blue is liquidity pools, yellows are order blocks, greens and reds are fair value gaps, bearish and bullish. Okay, so what we had talked about is that we could potentially see this come down, draw on liquidity, right? It did, it came even lower. But there are orders here that, and orders in this wick and in this wick that want to get filled. They are limit buy orders most likely, or stop orders if there were still stops in place from this run up. If somebody was still holding from that, come back down, get stopped out, right? Hopefully they didn't run that back down, but if they did, the stops are right there. Okay, so we traded down through that. We draw on liquidity, right? We took out the sell side right here. Hit it with the wick, and we tested this breakout candle, which is also an important thing. Breakout and breakdown candles are important things to watch as far as highs, lows. You can measure off the consequent encroachment, and then you can also divide it further into the halfway between the top and the mid, and then the 75% halfway to the bottom. You can measure off all those levels on large breakout candles and see if they give you any clues. But took that liquidity and we decided to bounce. Okay, and what we had talked about yesterday is if we bounced, what would that look like, right? We suspect that smart money went short up here and then started selling off, repositioned during OPEX, sold off, right? And are we going to see dumb money, retail investors try to run this back a little bit before potentially being sold off on down into this order block or this fair value gap, right? Or are we wanting to take lower lows? So I suspect that we are going to potentially see this run up into this consequent encroachment, 250 and some change, possibly balance this price range out, right? And this move could happen this week. It could happen tomorrow. We could see this run up, right? We're all the while running a test on this breakdown candle. Now, if we break this breakdown candle, if we break this high right here at 257.42 and we close, I'm not just talking about a wick, I'm talking about candle body close above this high, 257.42, we are seriously considering that we're going to run higher potentially into this order block, okay? Because if we get to this point, we start closing, this candle has been completely retested, and then we have all these unbalanced price ranges all the way up into the order block. Okay, we do know that from this high to this low, back to this high, was optimal trade entry. So we know that. Optimal trade entry is a good entry for a short or a long, depending on which way the retracement is happening. Okay, but we could also look at this high and this low and see if there's an additional optimal trade entry in that swing. Right? Because I still think smart money's trying to go short this whole time because I do believe that they repositioned. But let's go ahead and look at that fib level just to see where it lies. Okay, swing high, swing low. It's a little scattered with all the unbalanced price ranges, but let's see. Oh, wow, look at that. Optimal trade entry right here inside the order block. Balance the price ranges. Potentially run a little bit higher to balance the price range, maybe even to consequent encroachment of the order block if we were to get going in that direction. Okay, and that was the move that maybe, retail gets things running. Maybe some smart money even potentially reverses here and runs it up. You just don't know exactly what the play is until it starts to unfold. But interesting that optimal trade entry of that swing is going to put us back up in this order block. So I'm going to delete it for now. It's not super important for me to be watching that, but just know that that order block does hold significance as far as where a potential retracement is going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this 50% retracement off because it's no longer an accurate retracement level. And we'll just pay attention to this swing high, swing low, and where we retrace. But the 68 and the 70% retracement are going to land us in these unbalanced price ranges. So keep an eye on that, okay? The move could just be that we plug up here a little bit, boom, drop off. So we're going to be watching. Definitely the fact that we took sell-side liquidity that was down here today and rebounded a little bit does lead me to believe that we might be going at least just a little bit higher this week. If we want to go higher long term, we're really going to want to see price come back down, and I'm going to show you this on a shorter time frame. But if we are going to get ripping in the other direction, we really want to see a strong move back down to take some of this liquidity that's in this wick, right? If smart money is going to do it, they're going to put it back down. They're going to get big orders filled here. Then they're going to rip it. Okay, so things we're watching is see if we have a draw on liquidity and that level continues to hold for potential larger move to the upside. Let's go ahead and drop into the 4-hour time frame. Again, we don't always do 4-hour, but I do want you to see where that order block came from. Okay, I'm going to take out the blue liquidity pool right now. I'm going to show you the order block that I have marked as a 4-hour order block. Came in this down closed candle before a move up. Okay, that's how order blocks are found. They're in down closed or up closed candles before a move in the opposite direction. Not every order block is of significance. There's internal order blocks, there's swing order blocks. Every block is technically an order, but the ones that we're looking for are typically at swing highs and swing lows, and that can be top of swing highs. That can also be internal, like we have here. This is an order block that I thought was of interest before we start to head up to this one. Okay, so on the 4-hour time frame, we can also see 2 up close candles running a test on this candle. If we get above this candle, which we could get up there to test this, this bearish 4-hour fair value gap, right, with an unbalanced price range right here. So we could see this test this candle, run into this candle, right, grab this consequent encroachment, maybe even a little higher. Consequent encroachment is right above the 1-minute unbalanced price range, right? So could we see this run up here, get slapped back down, head much lower? I've seen a lot of people calling for potential moves down into the 235, 232. Happens that we got some areas of interest here, 233.73 down to 229.78. So, again, we're watching for which move happens first, right? If tomorrow we sell down into this liquidity, again, you saw it on the daily, now you see it in the 4-hour. Okay, we got the liquidity pool here. If we trade back into it, hold this level, okay, rally up, something like what we saw here, liquidity build up, push back into liquidity, sell off, right? Liquidity build up. Could we push back into liquidity and rally? Totally possible, right? Or are we going to rally first and then drop off? Okay, let's go ahead and look at the 1-hour time frame. Okay, down closed candle here, so doesn't quite look as bullish as the 4-hour chart did with just 2 green candles, but we had a little bit of chop today. We dropped, we popped, we chopped around, right? A lot of times Mondays can be a consolidation range, especially after such a sell-off on Friday, right? So what are we looking for tomorrow? We're looking for a potential move to flash manipulation. Then we're looking for distribution on Wednesday, potentially continuation on Thursday, right? And then a reset on Friday. So we got our consolidation, right? From here to here. We kind of chopped around in here in this order block, right? Is the manipulation going to be a rip up to drop it? Or is the manipulation going to be a drop down to rip it up? Okay, but that's what we're watching for, is the manipulation to see what smart money's doing. They give the tells. They're there. You can see them in the chart. But sometimes you got to wait till the move's actually happening, and you just mark it off and say, if this happens, then I'm expecting this to happen. Okay, so we've painted a couple different scenarios that if we draw on liquidity down here, we could see price run back up, or if we start running up, how far it's going to go, don't necessarily know. We have our different levels to anticipate, but is the manipulation move to let retail run it up again to ultimately have smart money go short. Okay, we have some other bearish fair value gap up here. Again, up higher where we just came from. Not as concerned until we start taking these two fair value gaps out. I don't notice any additional unbalanced price ranges that aren't already on there. We have this 1 hour one that we're going to be paying attention to that also falls within this gap and this volume imbalance, right? But we also traded partially up into it near the consequent encroachment. So let's go ahead and drop down to the 15-minute chart. Okay, 15-minute chart, again, just trading inside that 4-hour order block, right? This shows a little bit more what happened. We really consolidated here. We saw a move higher. We saw price not want to move much lower. Okay, hit it with a wick. Say this is a little corrective move here, right? And then they ran price back up into close. So we never cleared and closed outside of this order block. Could be an indicator. We're going to drop back down and see if we head back up to take it. A drop down, again, would be a draw on liquidity potentially. It could just be a straight sell-off. So we'll have to see what happens. But we do have 15-minute fair value gaps here, big one here. Also consequent encroachment with the same 1-minute unbalanced price range inside this bearish fair value gap. Those kind of things are confluence, right? So we are looking for signs that show us that there's multiple things going on in one area. Right? So what I might be looking for tomorrow, gap open, gap down, right? Does price want to run up to 252 and some change? This is an area where I would say high probability to target if we're moving in the upside. Anything beyond that, not incredibly certain about, okay? On the 15-minute, we got the 200 period moving down. I do suspect that if we start trading up that direction, the 200 period is going to act as resistance if we don't drop sooner. Okay, so that could look like, again, coming down, running back up. Right? Do we hit this mark and trade back down? Do we run all the way up to intersect the 200 that's coming down now? Right? And will that 200 continue to offer resistance when we hit it? We also could see this kind of consolidate within a range as the 200 catches up. Potentially see if that 200 wants to act as support if we run higher. Okay, so all things that we're watching, looking for different indicators that say price might go to this level for that reason. Let's go ahead and drop down to the 5-minute, start to get into some of my favorite charts. You all know that I'm a day trader. Really don't like swing trading options, but will if I have to. And today, we had some nice call outs, some nice runs, a lot of people making money. So I know that we went long on 250s and 260 calls, trimmed a lot of the position into close, right? Trimmed some here, added on a dip, right? Ended up running back, trimmed some more, not holding nearly as many as I was throughout the day. But what do we see here? We saw, right, price come down, hit a level, wicked it by a bit, came back up, came back down, right? 5-minute bullish fair value gap, doesn't even come down to hit it all the way, leaves it open, runs off, okay, above the moving averages, right? We crossed over, we tested, we crossed over, we tested, we ran up, right? Why it stopped here, who knows? Looks like it stopped here as well. So that is an equal high, right? Equal highs do get taken eventually. Doesn't mean they're going to get taken immediately. It could gap them. Consider that taken. Okay. But just chopped around, not a whole lot of action, kind of pushed it up at the end of the day. So we do have price currently above the moving averages. Okay. We have the 200 period coming down. We could see price run up and reject, right? But we also know there's that 5 minute or that 5 minute fair value gap here, which I believe was also a 15 minute. And so we could see price run up. It would break above the 200 back test, run even higher. Where would it head? We got a 5 minute order block here. We got unbalanced price ranges. We have other things on the map from other time frames, right? So if it crosses the 200, if the 200 continues to be support once it crosses over, right? Cross over, back test, run up, we could see price run into the 260. Now, I've called out that I think that we're going to, end up somewhere in the higher 250s, potentially by the end of the week, right? But I'm really looking for the run to 250, 215. And from there, if it goes higher, then great. But that's kind of my minimum target, is looking at that 250, 215. And down to the 1 minute, for all you day traders out there, see if there's any clues that were left open. This is a great opportunity to understand low risk entry. Okay, low risk entry, right? Run up. There's fair value gap here to here. There's fair value gap here to here. Okay, this candle closed this fair value gap, left this fair value gap here, right? Price came back down and tested it. When a fair value gap is laid and price comes into it, even though this is a pretty decent sized fair value gap, when price comes back towards that fair value gap, you can enter a position and set your stop loss somewhere below the low of that fair value gap. Don't set it right on it. Wicks can hit it, right? In this case, you would have probably looked to set it down here at a low. Okay, and then let's look at what that would have looked like. Okay, say you did grab this entry and you set your low here, and you'd be targeting, I don't know, potentially gap fill. Okay, so that starts out as a 1.5 RVR. If you targeted the order block up above, okay, just the order block beginning, it's a 2.76 RVR. Not bad. We didn't quite hit it today. I think we did hit it in after hours at some point. Could we hit it tomorrow? Certainly. But if you're trading options and you got this entry, like, that's a nice move. You smashed it. That 2.76 gets amplified when you're trading options and not just shares, right? So we'll go ahead and delete that, but we'll say that's a great entry. So pay attention to those fair value gaps and order blocks. Great opportunities if you understand how to use them on where to get good entries. Okay, so let's extend this across. This is going to be an area of interest. If we come back down to steal liquidity in this wick, okay, that wick, this, you can't see it here, but the daily wick, the 4-hour wick, we talked about it. It's in this price range where price moved from here down back up to here. That's a wick, right? It's going to leave a wick. Liquidity's built up. We know from here to here. Okay, if we start coming down, this is a highly likely area for it to bounce. Steal that liquidity, come back down into the fair value gap, leave it open if it wants to run through. If we start closing this fair value gap, okay, it's 239, almost 240, up to 240.77. Okay, if we close a candle below this, there's a high likelihood that we're heading down to the 236 order block. Okay, be very clear about that. This fair value gap is going to be very important to watch. This order block, this fair value gap. If we don't bounce in this order block, come down here. If we don't bounce this and we close it, we come back down here, because we've already tested this on multiple occasions and it has offered support, but it might not offer support if we get moving back in that direction. Okay, and so any other indicators that we're looking at? Oops. All right, we're looking at, again, the 1 minute chart. We're saying, no, don't see any unbalanced price ranges, right? This one here that extends got balanced. In chop, there's not much to balance. So we're really just looking tomorrow to see if price wants to trade down and grab liquidity, right? Or if price wants to trade up through this order block, potentially up to the 1 minute unbalanced price range and the other targets we had. We have some small fair value gaps here. I don't expect that they're going to be much of interest to us because we have other targets that are to the upside. We also know that, let's slap on, shout out to Angel for the volume profiles that are session based. It's been a huge help to see where and why price wants to stick around an area, right? So if you don't have this, get it. If you're a Traders Helping Traders member, we've posted it a couple times. Angel posted it for us, right? But what we can see is there's a point of control on the volume node right here, right? And look at all the times we chopped around it. Boom, boom, up, over, down, back to, right? Over, down, down, right? Over again, right? And price really respected that till the very end of session. Boom, ripped it up. Okay, so this was the primary node that we were looking at, this primary price balance range, which you also see what low volume there is here. So dropped easily but ripped up easily back up to where there was some volume, right? And we chopped around in this volume for a bit. We ran up and we stayed in this volume right here. Okay, again, we ripped up. Let's go back and look at session volume, and this will be the last thing that we do. Let's look at session volume for the previous day and see if that gives us any indication. So Friday's session volume, point of control, 254.29. Okay. Balance price range, previous point of control, volume there could very well hit a wall and not go any higher than that, right? Not even getting up into this order block. So let's just see if price gets going in that direction. I want you guys to mark off 254.20, give or take. I'll mark it off here. And I'm going to label it. Point of control, Friday volume. Okay, because I don't always leave my session indicators up just because they add additional noise to my chart, but I do use them. I don't always use the weighted averages as well, the moving averages, but I do like to use them to look for confluence. Okay, so this gives us two really nice ranges, okay, to look for, the 252 to 254, and this is an area where I suspect that we might only see price trade up to this high during this week's session. So let's go ahead and watch those. Okay, I really appreciate your guys' support. The channel's blowing up fast. We're getting a lot of subscribers. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We got new merch coming out, and the links are in the description. Also, the link to Trading Helping Traders Discord, where I often spend a lot of my mornings during the trading sessions hanging out there. Right, so don't forget to join. Also, the socials are in the description. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.